All right. Let's see. Let me get rid of the brand here.
Maybe you should kind of turn off the
Can you all see that?
background blur.
Oh, turn on or off?
Off, but then the old picture.
It usually doesn't work well when there's many people in the camera.
From the top, the
Yeah.
portrait mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully there's like a. Okay. Can you all hear us? That's the real question. Is if we sit all over here, 500 feet away from the thing, can you hear us? And by the way, I just saw a comment. Somebody's asking, will this be on YouTube? Yes, it will. Unless I have grossly misconfigured this. Okay, they can hear us.
All right, excellent. Yeah.
So that was the hard part. I did my bit. That's all you.
Yeah. So what do you want to hear?
Well, okay. So we just finished Vaadin Create. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a
awesome community around the conference.
Amazing community. Yeah. So 2 days, tons of people, crazy new announcements. Here in Frankfurt, Germany. I don't know. For me, it's been such a rush because I was here.
You got out of the airport in Frankfurt, so that's kind of two things.
So nice. It turns out this is a really nice city. The airport is the worst airport on the planet in the universe, but it's a really nice city.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which makes it all the more sad that I was unable to see a lot of it because I was having a wonderful time in this hotel, just talking to all these people. It was like nerd camp or something. It was great. It was just really great people in one little space. And I'm joined, of course, by two of them today. Can you introduce yourself, gentlemen, from my far left all the way to...
Yeah, so my name is Joonas from Vaadin. I found the company long time ago. So.
And yourself?
Yeah, and me, I'm Leif. I've been building, architecting different parts of Vaadin for 13 years already now.
Oh man, that's okay. So, okay, I guess have you been on the show before? Yes.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, so let's start with you quickly. Like Vaadin is, it's always up to date with the latest and the greatest. Like Spring, it does that by being true to its community and growing, but also it's an old project, just like Spring. Actually, older, I think, than Spring.
Yeah, we started already year 2000. So the first release was. Actually, it was first internal, but 2002 Christmas was the first open source release. So that was 3.0, and that was the first public one. It was named Millstone back then, though. Like Millstone, like the heavy stone. That is.
Why was it called that?
Because it was a lightweight framework.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming from Finland, so our naming was horrible. So the name of the company was IT Mill. So we thought that, the millstone inside the mill that we are using to kind of grind those new apps. And then somebody kind of told that there is this way of saying that you put the millstone in your head and kind of roll you down the river. That's like a UK thing, so it didn't sound like a compelling thing.
So okay, so it's now named Vaadin. Why did you settle on Vaadin?
That was a long process. So
well, first of all, what does Vaadin mean?
So it's a female reindeer. It's a Finnish company originally, so we wanted to have a Finnish name for it. And Vaadin, it means specifically female reindeer.
What is the male reindeer?
I don't know.
There's no word for it?
I mean, there's many words up in the northern Finland. There's people kind of making a living out of herding those reindeers. So they are the ones having all those different words. We don't know because we don't do that business.
Yeah, but to be completely honest, we wanted to have a name that would have .com domain. No, that would be almost pronounceable. So.
But wait, so you've never learned the word for the male reindeer?
No.
Generally, reindeer is poro in Finnish.
Okay.
But that's about it. I don't. For some reason, there is a different name for reindeer for female reindeer.
Okay, so it's not like
I remember we had this awesome conversation. So Monty Videnos, the founder of MySQL, was part of my board of directors back in the day when we were looking at the names. And we had a board meeting with, shall we change the name to Vaadin? And then with a long conversation, maybe like 1 hour, about what our logo has horns with this reindeer. So does female reindeers have horns? That was the kind of a long conversation at board.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of that's the reason why we have that name. But it was we should be checking if there are horns as well. So out of words.
It's just really deep.
I mean,
rabbit hole. I mean, not rabbit.
Reindeer hole.
Yeah. You know, you dig really deep into the earth to understand this. Okay. So already, I mean, you started off. very quickly pivoting to a much more sensible name. Okay, so version 3.0. I mean, look, was the purpose to build a web framework, if not in approach, at least in spirit, the same at the time? Like
it was actually a lot of the APIs are almost backwards compatible back to 2002. So it has been really supporting people throughout this journey. So I think 2002, we probably was first component-oriented web framework on the market. So it was, the rendering itself was quite different from what it is today, but we kind of had the right idea that you have to be building the UI out of components. We want to build it for web. So instead of having this kind of let's just spit out HTML type of approach that many people had back in the day, we want to have like reusable components already back then.
so was there right now there's this peering sort of approach, but back then did something like that exist? I thought that was a thing that came with GWT, which came later.
Yeah, but this is many years before GWT, many years before JSF. So yes, it was really early.
The keyword back then was XSMLT.
Transforms XSLT.
Yeah,
XSLT. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had like this idea that we'll have a abstract component model, and then you can render that in different devices. So we had a Vaadin or Millstone adapter for WAP phones, if you remember those.
For what?
W8AP WAP phones. So those,
Oh, right. Yes.
yeah. So WAP phones, we had MID adapter. If you remember what MID.
Yeah.
We had swing adapter. We had web adapter, and I mean the idea was that hey, you write it once and it actually works everywhere. And for the web adapter, we actually used XSLT for transforming that to like web pages.
Well, that's but okay.
We don't have any of that shit anymore. So
Yeah, but how would you? Was there? So one of the things I love about Vaadin today. By the way, for those of you just joining, Vaadin is a web framework created by some nice people in Finland 20 plus years ago. And so today it's one of the magic tricks that Vaadin does is it seamlessly lets you handle state in Java code, and that reflects in the UI. But how would you have perpetuated state management if it's just a render only?
we actually did exactly the same. So we had the same component. You could write the whole UI as back in the days you would be writing Swing in Java. It ran on the server side, and then we kind of scanned the component tree and transformed that to a web page. And we kind of handle all of that kind of web stuff for you.
So the on-click handler still invoked the Java code on the server side?
The on-click handler
There wasn't
reloaded the page.
There wasn't an on-click handler. It was a
Okay.
form submit. But
But still the point being that the event handler reloaded the page, and then for each request, we sent a response back with the new HTML.
Yeah, and then later on, like Microsoft invented Ajax as a part of the email client that they had.
Yeah.
So we kind of rewrote the whole UI for Ajax. So, and kind of basically dropped all the kind of other adapters at that point of time.
Okay. Wow. So, and then that approach, I remember when JSF first came out, they were also talking about, you had this component model, and there was discussion at the time, at least, of like, okay, you could use this one day to conceptually build a desktop app or something else. And of course, you can't even build a web app with JSF. So it's I think they have work to do there. I mean, obviously, I don't see people building desktop apps with, PWAs maybe, but like you're not building your.
No.
It's not. You dropped that goal.
We dropped that. I was kind of, when I started, we removed the last pieces of even being able to do that.
Okay.
But it was kind of
Focus on the web then.
Yeah. The model how you wrote those UIs, that was kind of sustainable, and the idea that you can basically run them anywhere, that was kind of meaningful, but didn't have the resources to actually like render it natively on stuff like that. So,
yeah, but also the other thing, the web exploded. Everyone wanted for these kind of applications that we optimize for.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Okay, that's so when was that?
2010-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
What was when kind of going all in on the web? I was. Oh
no. 2005.
I think. Yeah. Yes, I can't count.
What even is up? What even?
So basically, I don't remember exact year, but it was like the same year when the first Ajax call was done.
Yeah.
So it was over the Easter. I wrote something called the Ajax adapter as a prototype, and it was really cool because we got one really big customers by demonstrating that, hey, now you can do Ajax in Java, and they really got excited about that, and they ended up like writing a lot of products on top of that, and that ended up helping us to write to kind of fund the development of this open source framework.
But it was in 2010 when we kind of started removing even the possibility of having other kinds of adapters and actually adding web-specific APIs also.
I kind of, by the time I found Vaadin, I was slow to the party. I think when we talked about this in the keynote. And by the way, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming over. It was awesome.
Super fun for me. I learned a ton, and it was that keynote. It was actually really fun for me because we got to walk down memory lane, as it were. And I think it was around 2010 was the first time I would have met you. So years into your journey already. And you had those little colorful books that you handed out at conferences. They're like the new Mac Mini sized. Like, have you seen the new Mac Mini?
No, actually, what I used as a kind of
like a
template was like Disney comic books. They have these pocket books. So I kind of measured those and went around different printing houses asking how you can print something like this. So that was kind of model. So we thought that giving out those in conferences, people wouldn't just throw them away like, I don't know, some kind of gimmick that you get from a conference.
No, because you can actually keep it in your back there. It was small enough that it was like, okay, I can see myself reading this. It's not heavy. It doesn't take any space. It was great. And it was also colorful. It looked good.
Yeah.
I mean,
and people don't throw books away. So like reference manual, you put it into your bookshelf, and it's like an advertisement over there. So everybody asks, what is this thing?
Yeah. People don't throw books away.
At least back in the
then. I mean, I've thrown away a few phone books.
Do you remember in the back of the book there was this appendix called Songs of Vaadin? Have you heard of that?
I do vaguely remember some fun stuff. Yeah. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so there was Marco Grönroos, who was writing the book, so he was first thinking that a reference manual for Vaadin. They're boring. Let's have a more interesting name. So it ended up being Book of Vaadin, a bit almost like evangelical in a sense. So he went all in and he wrote an appendix called Songs of Vaadin. So there is this myth in Finland called Kalevala that is basically like
Kalevala?
Kalevala, yes.
Kalevala?
So there is, I mean, it's a famous, really old collection of poems. So he wrote a new chapter to that book and called Songs of Vaadin, with the kind of legend that one of the characters, Seppo Ilmarinen, would have been like using steed called Vaadin to ride around in those legends. So the fun thing was that then he thought that, hey, I'll insert this to different universities when the researchers are researching the history of Finland and try to kind of make it feel like it's really real. And even today, if you start Googling for Songs of Vaadin, some sites are actually referring that as the things that is a part of the Kalevala canon.
Come on! So Vaadin will endure, not just because lots of websites are built in it, but also because it's now become part of the myth of the country.
Yeah. As you can see, the company culture is a bit crazy.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so 2010, that's when I found out about it. I started to use it, and I saw those great books, and it's Java code. This is what people don't really understand, is that at the time, especially, you wrote Java code, and you got a dynamic, fast updating client-side browser-based JavaScript app. This is not WebAssembly. This wasn't Flash. This wasn't applets. This is just Java code over here, and somehow I've got a HTML DOM button over here.
Yep.
Sorcery. And at some point I kind of connected that there's some GWT in that incarnation of it.
Yeah. So we kind of reinvented ourselves multiple times. So like when GWT hit the market, we thought that, oh my goodness, this is actually pretty awesome.
Not bad,
so instead of like we did this hard decision that we threw all of our kind of a client-side rendering engine away and rewrote that with GWT. The user bought it, they didn't notice anything. It kept working because they wrote against the server-side Java APIs. But the outcome was that then you could extend Vaadin in Java on the client side. And when Google kind of they kind of left GWT behind at some point of time. So we kind of rewrote that again with the standard web component. So now it's just a standard-based web components on the front.
So is there so with GWT you would have this JSNI,
Yep.
right? You write native code in
Yeah,
Java that would delegate to JavaScript functions instead of C code.
Yep.
Right. And there was this peering, this magic sorcery witchcraft that would happen, that these things would get linked up together at some time.
Yep.
At some point. How does that work now that you're writing pure play web components?
Yeah, so the way it works now is usually all the integration happens through server-side code, where you actually give JavaScript snippets to evaluate to kind of make the web component come alive.
That's how I like my JavaScript.
Alive.
Yeah, no, in Java. Yeah.
So when you integrate a component, then you create a Java API that does all the JavaScript magic behind the scenes, and then the user of that component doesn't need to care.
But I guess the kind of a basic outcome is that you can write the whole UI in pure Java and you have direct access to Spring on the Spring Boot on the server side. But if you want to kind of dive into that, you can also extend in standard Java, or you can even extend in React if you want to.
So the reason I love this is because however that thing is getting rendered on the client side, and right now it's JavaScript and HTML and the browser and all that good stuff, it's still Java code. What you're writing is Java code.
Yep.
You don't need to have a PhD in React. You don't have to you don't have a 5,000 KLOC of NPM node modules. Just all that stuff is just sort of hidden from you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really productive. So you can go to start.spring.io, add Vaadin, add your database, add your web, Tomcat, and now you're done. You're just start writing.
Now you're front-end developer.
Yeah, congrats. It's
Full stack.
Full stack development. Yes.
Yep.
And I think this is the right way to go. I think honestly, I think there's so much more richness in the back-end ecosystem in terms of things I need to handle, and so I'd much rather get good at that, and then bring the tools and technologies I use in that sphere to the front end, rather than taking this ecosystem and language that is completely built around the browser and extending that to the rest of my backend. So when I say full stack, usually they mean one language. I know which side of the line I'm betting on.
Yeah, I think it's more around. You should be not everything is suitable for being written in Vaadin. So let's say if you're building a website, don't use Vaadin for that. But as you probably saw in the conference, there are many big companies who are writing really enterprise-oriented business applications that life cycles are like 10 years plus.
Yeah.
It's really good to be on the stable Java ecosystem, stable Spring API, stable Vaadin APIs on the server side.
And also another thing that is very important is that you have immediate access to all the Java libraries. I mean, so you shouldn't do it, but you can in your Flex listener just directly do a JDBC call or anything, because it just runs in the same JVM.
Right.
It's actually pretty cool I really like the Spring AI. So now you can use all the Spring AI API directly from your UI. So it's really nice.
So cool. It's so cool. Yeah, that's true. I mean, what you mentioned the stability. That's actually a great point. I mean, how often, that the meme of 0 days since the new JavaScript framework came out, right? And meanwhile, you said in some ways your Vaadin code from 10 years ago probably would still compile.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a
lot of it.
Because I mean, it's 24 years that for the journey, and in open source like 22 years now, 23 years, something like that. So it's a long time, and if it wouldn't be changing anything, it would be dead.
Sure.
So over the time, I think we have broken backwards compatibility once more bad than we would like to have. So, and that was basically when we were forced to drop GWT. Many people had to kind of make fairly extensive migrations. The foundations are still the same. It's still kind of brought in the same way, but there was a lot of pain for the user community for kind of migrating from Vaadin 8 to Vaadin 10 plus. But since Vaadin 10, and now we are in 24, so since Vaadin 10, it has been like very stable, and I don't think kind of next kind of breaking point coming up.
Give me the dynamic behavior of the browser with the stability, the good testing hygiene, the nice abstraction abilities of my backend.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is the next thing we will do breaking changes is probably your fault. Because we need to adapt to Spring Boot 4 and Spring Framework 7.
Actually, that'll be Spring Boot 4 and Spring Framework 7 are going to be remarkably timid in terms of things that will change.
Yeah,
that we hope for,
Yeah.
but still we also gonna bump the major version.
Oh,
and
okay.
so on.
with one, actually, I'm kind of hoping that we could have like Vaadin 25 at the same time as Spring Boot 4, but it would be year 25 when Java 25 built the thing at the same time.
Oh,
25, 25, 25.
Yes, and Vaadin Thirst 25.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
that's
goodness.
actually, yeah. It's like round 100 plus Spring
Oh,
Boot
that's
4.
awesome. So actually, I think we're keeping even the same Java 17 baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about the
Yeah,
Jakarta migration.
but just like you do, we also said that that's the baseline, but
Right.
you can also benefit from newer versions.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, if people are using Spring Framework 7, they won't change. Nothing will change. We don't have to do Jakarta migration.
No.
anymore. We're not changing the baselines for anything. It should be fine. It'll
Yep.
be okay. I love this. So the stability is really important, and I love the back end because that's one thing we're pretty good at in the Java ecosystem. I asked ChatGPT. The AI can't lie. It's a fact. It's always going to be correct. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, what modern programming language is the most stable, backwards compatible? And it's like Java. It's not even close, right? Like every other language is sort of tumultuous. Java has an incredible backwards compatibility story, and I value that. I cherish that. The Spring community, we just like you, we know our customers depend on that as well, right? We're in Frankfurt, here in Germany, historically, not there's a lot of big businesses here that value that cherish that stability over lots of other things, So I want that in my code, but also I want sophistication, right? So I love Vaadin, and I think there's a difference between embracing the ecosystem versus simplicity. That is to say, I think there's right now it's a sort of backlash against the complexity of JavaScript-based front-end programming or TypeScript, whatever.
Yep.
And you see it reflected in things like HTMX.
Yeah,
Which-
I think it's kind of people want to go back to our, so it kind of feels like some of the front-end frameworks, they are overly complicated because some of the high-scale websites, consumer websites, they need to have all that complexity. Most of the enterprise systems, they don't. They can be drastically simple on the front-end side.
Yeah.
So kind of being pulled to deep into complexity by these high-scale websites, it's kind of silly that they try to use the same stack.
Yeah, I mean, you are not Google. You don't have the problems that Google or Netflix have.
Quite the
Even
contrary.
if, unless you really want to have all the same problems.
And that's a great point, right? Which is I want to get something into production. You mentioned not all web. You said website earlier, and you distinguished it from like applications, right?
Yeah.
Web apps versus websites. I mean, if you're like if you're an HTML page, which happens to have some links, or whatever, that's different from a data-driven, form-driven, dynamic sort of kind of thing, right?
So the kind of apps that are typically being built with Vaadin are like everything like healthcare, patient record, aerospace, logistics, that type of kind of boring business application that we get. They kind of run the
Boring needs to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's more valuable than it does.
And like 90% of all software development is building those applications.
Yeah.
You just don't see them.
I believe I see it. That's
Yeah,
Lots
but
of
most
reasons
people don't
for
see
that.
them.
So this is the thing. One of the reasons I love our community, the Spring community, and I'm sure yours as well, is that a lot of people, especially in the early days, use Spring as a way of like, look, I can hire 100 consultants to help me with this WebSphere thing, or I can just do this. I can have an app quickly, right?
Yep.
So we have all these there's a lot of different seasonal apps, or there's these departmental apps. They don't have the budget or the priority in a typical IT organization to get the chief architect of the company and come in and bless the project with a brand new budget and a whole team of people. They just need to get something up and running.
Yep.
And back in the 90s, this would have been Visual Basic, right? It would have been Access or something like that, right? And
Exactly.
look, we can make jokes about Visual Basic because of the code it was generated, but the use case was solid. It's a real thing. People just sometimes need to get an application up and running, and if it works, it works. And then maybe IT doesn't even know about it. They do an end run, right? A lot of these platforms as a services, a lot of these mobile backends as a service and backends for front ends. All these sort of websites are all about like, look, I just need to get something up and running.
Yep.
If I can not have to deploy services, that'd be great, right? There's a whole ecosystem around people who are just trying to get something up and running, and it needs to work, and it needs to be secure, and it needs to be good, but it needs to be above all quick
And many of your business apps, they're going to start small. So there's like one developer who needs to be solving a business case. And then it's a successful business case, start growing, then there's 2 developers, 5 developer team. And what we have been seeing with Vaadin is that if these are Java developers, they actually can write the whole application from backend and the front end, all of that in kind of basically one application. And when they start scaling, they actually scale that in a way that they have functional teams around it. So yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing about Java. Unlike Visual Basic, as soon as that thing got big, it became unmanageable. With Java, a small Java program can very easily scale into a big one. We've seen it count time and time again, right? And so Vaadin is just, I think, this really, really nice choice. If you're trying to get an application that serves your organization, or it's departmental, or it's even seasonal, Spring and Vaadin, that's a 1-2 punch that I think people really, really should pay attention to. And by the time you're still doing npm install, you'll have something working in Spring and Vaadin. Really amazing.
Yeah, our kind of inspiration, what we try to be someday, maybe hopefully, is that people would kind of see that, hey, I need to be building this boring business application, and obviously I'm going to be using Java and Spring.
Right.
So they would see like Vaadin as the web app framework for Spring. So that would be kind of what I would love to kind of see someday happen. But obviously, the Spring community is way, way, way larger than Vaadin community. But we really love Spring. But
we all I love Spring and I love Vaadin, and the feeling is definitely mutual. Our users benefit from the choice on the server side, right? And so, but I hope not a lot of people are building server-side rendered HTML apps with Spring MVC, right? I hope they're either doing Vaadin. I think there are some people. There's actually some people are talking to us about HTMX, of course, which is they want the best of both worlds for web pages.
But I think HTMX is a really cool hack from expanding from like a server rendered HTML, so you can get more interactivity there. But you kind of
only a little bit more, and it's just it's the page versus the app.
Exactly, but if you only need a little bit, then it's going to make sense.
Even when you go to the HTMX web page, they have a really fun kind of posts there, and one of them is actually kind of saying that HTMX isn't for these kind of rich interaction use cases.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of my use cases are more in the Vaadin camp. I don't have read-only pages that happen to have a form here or whatever. I have more dynamic Vaadin kind of things, So I just think there's a backlash, and I think this Vaadin is, as usual, leading the charge to meet people where they are, to help them get to production faster. Really cool technology. So okay, that's, I guess we've just kind of covered where we are. Now, you, sir,
Me?
you did, because one of the things you spoke my language in your keynote yesterday. I've been watching with amusement as all the different JavaScript frameworks seem to be converging on more or less the same paradigms. They seem to be figuring out that there's like only a few different interesting ways to solve some of these problems, and that does make me wonder why we need 6 of them if they're all doing the same thing exactly or almost the same way. But one of the things that seems to be common is brought to the fore with Svelte 5. Have you seen that framework? Svelte, for those of you who don't know, is a JavaScript framework that was written by a genius named Rich Harris, who has a compiler, and they hacked into the compiler to use certain tokens that are valid JavaScript, like the case statement, colon, and the $sign, and they supercharged those tokens to have meaning, to say that this let count equals 1, and then you have a token before that. Now it's a reactive signal kind of thing. Well, of course, it's too magic, and so people have pushed back, and now in Svelte 5 they've pulled that. They haven't pulled it out; it's still there if you want it, but they have a new thing called runes, which are signals. Right.
But I mean,
everything else
it goes even further back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, other languages had that. Other frameworks had signals before that, of course. But I mean, recently people are realizing, okay, even the framework Svelte, which promised to keep us away from the complexity of signals, even they have had to sort of backtrack and go, never mind. Actually, this was not such a bad idea. So now the wall has fallen. Everybody is using this paradigm now, right?
Except React, they don't have signals.
Well, but not built in. But there's
everybody using React.
So you have to use it to do anything useful there. So
and there have been promising compiler tricks to do the same thing for several years.
Vue started to do compiler tricks. I mean, I'm not saying there's not.
Yeah, but
innovation
Vue
there.
also has signals. It's called ref
Yeah.
there.
Oh, of course, yeah, and that's been there for years, you know.
Yep.
So all that to say, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the JavaScript community is kind of getting there. And then you did your keynote.
Yes.
And I was, so tell me about these. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. You could talk about whatever you wanted, but I really want to get to that signal
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, so basically the thing is now the JavaScript community has for many years experimented what are the different ways of doing things, and they've realized, oh yeah, these signals, that's what we're converging on. And then we look at that, yeah, makes sense. Let's bring it to Vaadin also.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Like, so again, so what is a signal actually? Let's talk about that. It's in the context of these web apps on the front end. It's a way, because if you have a value and you want to render a DOM and the DOM reflects the counter, the example you had yesterday, you want to show a counter. You click the button, the value of the counter increments. Now the DOM, the HTML node that has the value that you printed out, should update.
Yeah.
Now, how does the framework with its virtual DOM most of the time sort of reconcile that value has changed? Because it is just it's a number.
Yeah, and I
There's
mean,
no event handler that it can listen to. So it has to somehow figure out, oh, this thing has changed. And if you just give it literally a number, it's not easy to react to a number changing.
no,
There's no AOP in JavaScript, right?
I mean, what a signal actually is, there is almost AOP in JavaScript.
Right.
Because you can write setters and getters for the properties,
Right.
and that kind of gives
And
you.
that's the kind of magic how you actually gonna
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
plug it in.
But I mean, what a signal actually is, it's a holder of a value, and it's a list of listeners for that
Right.
value.
Publish, subscribe.
Yes, but the magic with the signal is that you don't explicitly subscribe to it.
Right.
Whenever you read the value, there's kind of in Java terms, there's a thread local saying that this is the current computation. And then when you are inside that computation and you read a signal value, then your computation gets a dependency on that signal value.
Right.
Whenever the value of that signal changes, then your computation is run again.
Right.
And
So-
when your computation is rendering this component, then what it means is that when that value changes, then your component is rendered again, and then the virtual DOM kicks in and make an incremental update.
But because you know the scope of the update, you only have to re-render the thing that was affected.
Yeah.
Not the whole page or the whole
Yeah,
DOM
yeah.
tree or the whole virtual tree, which is really good. So you get the best of both worlds. You get, and in the JavaScript world, it's usually like, okay, in Vue, you say ref.
Yep.
One. Ref is a function.
Yep.
You call ref passing the value 1.
Yeah, that's the initial value then.
Right. And then that's also your signal, your
Yep.
ref or whatever, or your rune, they call them runes in the Svelte, but it's that thing.
It's
and
the
that
same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and the framework knows to treat these ref values as, and they do a little bit of like, they listen for it. They watch it.
Yeah, they look what are all the signals or refs or runes that you use for rendering
Right.
different parts of the view, and then based on that they know what to re-render.
Right.
And you can even do it one step further. You can do kind of computed signals.
Right.
So then you have something that, like, let's say field validation. You have a computed signal that says that if the length of this string in this other signal is less than 5, then we emit an error.
Right.
And then you can have kind of in your rendering, if this computed signal is true, then we show something in the UI, otherwise we show something else. And that also automatically, when the original value changes, your computed signal is updated and the DOM is updated. And you don't need to manually track those dependencies.
Right.
Just by reading the value, you subscribe to it.
So if I had a form where I'm trying to enter a U.S. address, I have the city, the street, the state, the city, the zip code, whatever.
Yep.
All these fields by themselves may not be invalid, but I want a computed field to look up the actual GIS mapping in the postal code. I want to validate that this is a valid U.S. address.
Yeah.
I can use the computer property to put them all together and then send it to the a database of actual addresses and make sure it's valid, right? And then I can throw an error at that.
I guess you have to be synchronous. And
I would still have a regular
Right.
kind of business logic for doing that call to actually do
Okay.
a lookup in that database. But in principle, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Assuming I could do it instantaneously on the same thread.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So that's really powerful. So you've got computed. You've got the reactive kind.
Yeah.
Do you have the concept of like a watch? Like I can just
Yep.
watch some other thing and then
I mean, all what we're talking about now is just a vision.
Right.
We have it for, we got 2 web frameworks. We got Hilla, where you actually use React for rendering. You hate that. And then we got
want it.
Yeah.
I want my Java.
Yeah, I know. And then we have Flow, which is what you are so eager about, which
Yes.
is only server-side Java.
Yeah, you know why I love that? Because you do the React,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
Actually, the Hilo part is also quite cool. So if you have a Spring service and you just add a protocolable annotation in there, it auto-generates the whole kind of communication layer and auto-generates the kind of corresponding TypeScript class and all the kind of type validation. So it's like we wanted to have a way for people who like front-end frameworks like React to be able to kind of communicate with Spring. So it's just a kind of a different way of doing this.
It's the absolute best way to do React.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
But I think that's kind of needed background for this discussion. So what Leif actually came up with was really, really cool. So if you have signals in the front-end frameworks, could we kind of somehow span the signal between the client and the server? So that is so freaking cool idea, because then suddenly you have this communication mechanism not only between the server and the client that's totally automated, but also you could share the same full stack signal between multiple clients, and then you have real-time collaboration.
Yeah. So simple example, a chat. That's just a list of messages.
Sure.
And everyone looking at that chat, they share that same UI state. So then whenever anyone inserts a message at the end of this signal, then everyone sees that as a new chat message.
Right. Oh, because also it could be like a static variable in the Java code.
Yeah.
And it's a signal.
Yeah, or static variable, or then kind of you share it with everyone in the same chat room or something
they
like
all
that.
see the same structure.
Yeah. They share the same UI state, and then they are in the same chat.
And that's the other thing you talked about yesterday that was really blew my mind, which is, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to bring, no matter what you say, I'm going to tie this back to Apache Tapestry. It's not going to be pleasant, but it's not
going to be scary.
But no, one thing you said was, if the state is if we have business state and that is in the signals, it's in the state that we're managing via those signals.
Yep.
Then the UI state is derived from that business state, and therefore if I want to recreate the UI state, I can just reconstitute the signals, and the rest will automatically come back, right? I don't have to rehydrate all the UI state separately. Is that a fair understanding?
Maybe.
Do I have to store all the state in session for the UI if I have the data structure with a list of messages? Right? Couldn't I get back to the same place in the UI again if I had that again?
Yeah. So I think there's two different concepts here.
Yeah.
One is kind of the distinction between kind of business data and UI state.
Right.
But then the other thing is that no matter how you have that UI state, one of the like I said, we looked at, these front-end frameworks, they have converged on signals for state management.
Right.
But the other thing they have converged on is this concept of UI as a function of state.
Right.
Basically, you have this explicitly defined UI state.
Right.
And then from that, you can at any time recreate what's on the UI.
Right.
Then the framework make it efficient so that you don't have to re-render everything all the time. But conceptually, in React, every time you run a render function, you're recreating the whole state.
Right.
You're returning a new UI.
Yep. And the only thing you pass in is this signal.
Yeah.
And if it's a full stack signal and you have to have a copy of that state on the server side, then the whole UI could be the function of that server side state. So it's kind of really cool.
Yeah. But what I'm really most excited about is also bringing this to Flow, so that you can also in Flow have this kind of UI as a function of state way of developing, because you have so many bugs when you have this click listener here and that click listener there, and they both affect the state of this component, and then you need to take into account all the other things, and it just disappears when you just have UI as a function of state.
Yeah. So as long as I pass in the same signals that I had before, and then call render or whatever that background thread is, that background painting engine does.
Right now, I think we wouldn't even have a render function. It would be more like a template where you just configure everything. So more like Angular and less like React.
Right. Oh.
But anyways,
Sign me up. Okay, so that's great. That is really good. I'm a huge fan of that. And what I'm hoping is that means that we have more options for just recreating the UI graph.
Yeah,
from zero instead of storing it in session.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that people keep complaining about. That with Vaadin you have this whole component tree for each user in session memory, and if you got a typical business app with hundreds or thousands of concurrent users,
Right.
that's not a problem. But when we go to the millions, it might be a bit tricky.
It's definitely the fringe case, but it would be nice to have support for that.
Yep.
It works great as it is. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying
Yep.
it would be really cool. And the reason I bring this up is because, did you ever use Apache Tapestry?
Long time ago.
Long time ago. I used it. It was fine. You know, in 2004, if I had the then very nascent JSF versus Tapestry, I would Tapestry all day, every day, twice on Sunday. Come on, I mean, it's easy. But the reason, one of the things that was kind of interesting about it was the DOM, or so to speak, the component model, the buttons, the widgets, the forms, all that stuff was re-rendered every single time.
Yep.
There's no, most of that wasn't kept in session. The only thing that was kept in session was the data that was bound to these things.
Yep.
And so,
I mean, that's also the model in JSF.
well, no, because JSF actually keeps.
Well,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, and the problem with Tapestry's approach, it wasn't really a problem most of the time in practice, because there's some things you could do around it. But in theory, what you couldn't do was create a new component programmatically once the template was established.
Yeah.
Right? You couldn't add a new button to the. You could like iterate over a list and then render a new thing each time you iterated. But that's not the same as like I'm adding to the DOM, and I expect that
You have to kind of re-render the whole web page. Then.
Yeah, if I re-render that button, that ad is gone, right? Unless it was attached to some Boolean or something that was in the model. So,
Yeah.
And so you got the benefit of like a very lightweight session, but you didn't have a truly dynamic thing.
You know, we can do even better now.
Yeah.
Because you don't even need a session necessarily.
Yeah.
You can take all the things you would have in the session, encrypt it, send it to the client, and say to the client, the next time the user interacts, when you send a request, include this encrypted session also.
But you
And
have
then
to kind of really squeeze this into really small space.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but-
currently it wouldn't be working. That
Yeah,
well.
no, with the way Vaadin works today, it's not feasible. But if you have all your UI state just in these 5, 10, 15 different single instances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We actually tested that. So I think I wrote a prototype of that like 15 years ago. It kind of works. The problem is that the state is too large for that to be practical. So
Yeah, because it's all component instances.
Right.
could we even have like that ticket still open? Like someday do this, and there's like
Were you
prototype
using like
source
a
code.
cookie or offline storage or?
So it was basically kind of sent over as a part of every request.
Yeah, because
Oh.
we create the request, so we can put whatever we want inside them.
Right.
But I think it was no, yeah, you didn't have to kind of store that anywhere in the
Yeah.
browser.
Local storage didn't exist at that time.
Oh, local. Yeah, I said offline storage. I meant local storage.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're the same.
Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really exciting times.
Yeah.
Right? Again, everything. So, I think Tapestry optimized for the thing you need when you're trying to build the millions use case. But I
Yeah,
don't
but-
think most people have that.
But also Tapestry optimized for what the web looked like at that time.
Oh, sure, it was all server side. I know. But I'm saying what you did was, I think, much more sensible. Optimized for the first. Look, you don't get to the millions without first getting to the thousands. I want to get to the thousands first.
Yeah.
And if I can survive that, and then I survive the 10,000s, then and only then I'll make concessions to my architecture and my code that optimize for the millions, right? But I don't have that problem right now. And so Vaadin is what gets me to production for the first several rungs of that ladder, and maybe even for the last rungs of the ladder,
Yeah, once we get those stateless features.
I mean, most people don't get to that rung of the ladder anyways. My point. That's what I'm saying. Vaadin is great for the 90th percentile, and even after it's not, it's still not bad.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll get better soon. It sounds like it's going to get better soon, right?
Let's hope so.
Yeah. So you talked about a lot of this stuff, and my mind was just racing in that keynote yesterday. Really great. Like,
Yep.
The intriguing part around the full stack signals that we haven't cracked yet, but I think there is, if we can kind of eventually keep an eventually consistent state between the browser and the server, basically application logic layer, could that kind of reflect to database as well? And what happens in between? So it's kind of you could go all the way down to the database.
Yeah,
but
we
we
don't dare go there yet.
No, yeah. So, okay. So this is, I don't know, what did my eyes glazed over and I went into the void of my imagination as you were talking about this stuff, because it was just really, and you even showed this insane, almost troll-like slide where you showed a button and a signal and a counter, and then you showed the same thing using the not yet GA, they even withdrew it, unfortunately. The string templates in Java, plus this new imaginary or hypothetical signal API, plus a button in Vaadin. And the Java code was, like you said, it was like one line longer only because I have one extra curly bracket. Right? It's just as concise. And obviously, a few things have to land. The signals have to get. You have to be GA and that, and of course the string template stuff.
Well, we can manage without the string templates.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, you can do it in Kotlin. That would have been even less. And you could have done it in Kotlin. That would have been less than the React example.
Probably.
And it's, that can work. I mean, that's really good. So when does this stuff, what's the timeline on this stuff? When can we try it out? Next Vaadin Create.
Let's hope so.
The Java part, you mean the flow part?
Yep. The what?
You mean like the Vaadin flow part?
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking this one step at a time.
Okay.
We are learning very much from doing this collaborative Hilla, sharing UI state with different users for the chat and so on. And well, it's software development. We don't know, but I'm hopeful that yes, by Vaadin Create next year, we will have something for Flow also.
Also, there's like two directions. So one is like expanding that to server-side Java and Flow. Another direction is that could we have it more complete. Now we are kind of mostly using atomic states only. But if you have like lists or trees, and how should we kind of actually keep those in sync if people start adding new items in there? And
I mean, we have the list signal in an alpha version already. There's also in my plan for the upcoming couple of months. There's also a tree signal, or I think it's called a node signal, to be able to kind of atomically update more complex structures also.
So one of the things you did a couple of years ago that I thought was really brilliant. So Hilla started its life as a separate framework, and now you've kind of unified the approach, right? Like you can do both in the same code base, which I think is great, right? Like hopefully I can do. For me, like I said, I will start with the Flow experience. That's just me. You do you, but I can concede there might be an occasion where I might need to start with I might want to do something as I would with Hilla.
And it could also be that you just need a little bit of something in there, like let's say you want to include one React component somebody else have written, and you just want to drag it in, not touch it, but kind of wrap it in a way that you're going to use it from the server-side Java. So you can do that with Hilla.
Or one view that needs to work in offline mode.
Right, exactly. So that would be 80% Flow, 90%, whatever that ratio is, and then I can incrementally bring this in. Or I could start the other way around and bring in some Flow stuff. But the point is that that's now a possibility. I don't have to
you'd have to choose
in the beginning
and then kind of redo the whole process, but you can.
So actually, kind of, if you go to start Spring IO, add Vaadin there, then you have everything you need. You can just start adding either one TypeScript file for a Hilla view or one Java file for a Flow view, and it's up to you.
Write your UI, then turn on virtual threads, compile GraalVM native image, and off to production you go. And you can use build packs to get a Docker image out of that too. It's also good. So that was a few years, and this convergence and that. How's that going? Like, are people pretty happy with this new unified approach? And what's the feedback from the community? Where have people had any problems or?
They started going to work seamlessly just like lately. So it's something that we built out this year, and we have had a lot of kind of internal debates and is it a good thing to bring these together? And it's so interesting to go discussing with companies and who are like long-time Vaadin users. They basically have been using Vaadin Flow for 10 plus years. So you go over there, and if they're around the meeting table, there's this team who has been using Vaadin Flow for a long time. They kind of are suspicious. So what does it mean that you are kind of also supporting React in same Vaadin application? Like, and then there is might be some manager in the same table. But we do have these React teams, and they have been kind of fighting with the Java teams. Should we go all in with React or all in with Java? And this is awesome. Now we can kind of just be in peace and have only one application.
Whatever.
Exactly. So it's kind of very different point of views, and we have been seeing people kind of going both directions. So some people they are kind of multilingual. They are okay speaking TypeScript and React on the front end and basically Spring on the back end, and they're happy with Hilla. And then some teams are really kind of puristic. It's only one language, and we are more productive with this, and they don't have to touch it.
Nice. And by the way, that you talk about the you can expose a bean to Hilla
Service.
the service, yeah. Like and that kind of reminds me of JWR. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
JSON web remoting, whatever.
Yeah.
It's such a cool idea, but I always wanted it needs to be backed by the rest of the framework, and the fact that you've got that, such a good feature.
And it's kind of
great
nice
experience.
because Java is nice because it's statically typed, and TypeScript is nice because it's statically typed. So we can kind of skip this JavaScript stuff altogether.
Right.
You can have the same types on the both ends, so it's really kind of a
Yeah.
And also, like immediately, if you change, say, a method name in your service, then you will get TypeScript compile errors from that because
That's right. I showed this in one of my videos. That part that's mind blowing actually, because it is the biggest problem of running a client side app is you're synchronizing. Sometimes you're synchronizing state across both boundaries, and
you're
code
building
completion and all that kind of happens out of the box.
you're building a distributed system.
yeah, exactly. And you've got to make sure these things line up. You have to converge on the same values, or otherwise, guess what? Silent errors in production you don't know about. Oh, so good. So what's the So the signals are the future. A unified flow Hilla. That's the present.
That's the present. Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
thought
good.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so good. Congratulations. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what's next. This is this has been really a fun event, by the way. Just
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
All these people, everybody here. It's a good large crowd, and my voice is almost gone. I've been talking to people all day for 2 days in a row, and I'm sure your situation is even more raspy.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. What a great show.
Yep.
Well, I saw a lot of people here from all walks of life doing big, ambitious things, right? And they felt unlocked. It's very nice to have a technology that lets you feel like
I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing stopping me from getting there is me at this point. That's the best feeling, right? I don't want to feel like, well, I need to hire somebody to figure out this code over there. It's not the problem I have anymore. So it's just
It's like the same feeling when I go to Home Depot and I buy like a new power sander or something. After that, when I get back home, what should I sand? They have a bit of the same feeling that, hey, now I have a new Vaadin version. So what should I kind of start crafting?
So Vaadin, the power sander of Java.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for this. I hope. Let me see if we get some comments here. Make sure I didn't miss anything interesting and fun. Oh wow, a lot of activity here. Oh dear. Will this be on YouTube? Yes, it is. Hi everybody. Hello. Hello. How do I learn Vaadin? Start.spring today. Go to Petter Holmstrom. Holmstrom was talking about this new section in the Vaadin
Way.
The Vaadin way. Super good. And there's a lot of like Spring and Vaadin.
So it's kind of cool documentation. You go to vaadin.com and just click docs in the menu, then that's a good starting point.
Yep. Really good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Simon, community member and legend Simon chimes in with basically that same point. Thank you, Simon, as always. Should I know JavaScript for getting steady in Vaadin? It doesn't hurt because you are dealing with it at some point, but knowing it versus and being able to read it is very different from having to speak it, right? And so it's okay. I love the control center, by the way, Joonas. Oh, but to what is our friend Simon referring? I love the control center.
Oh, wow. we just kind of pushed it out. So it was kind of interesting to have a keynote yesterday saying that, hey, now this is out 101. And by the way, it still has this kind of fatal bug in there. So we released 102 yesterday as well. So how technically was building it at the same time as a keynote. So, and you have tried it already. So that's awesome.
We have the best community. Thank you, Simon, as always. That guy's great. I have a use case. Let me see. I have a use case where I need to read XML files on a file server and do some string search on the file content and display only those matching files. Yeah, Spring and Vaadin and Spring. I mean, I just
sounds like a server-side Java problem. So it's Vaadin is like the simple way of pushing that out on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, way easier. Okay. Apart from IntelliJ, what IDEs or tools offer strong integration with Vaadin, especially with a visual editor?
Yeah,
VS Code.
Yeah, I mean, any Java IDE works.
Yeah.
I've seen it used with NetBeans. I've seen it used with Eclipse also. And nowadays, we just also launched Copilot, which is a visual editor that runs inside the application instead of inside the IDE.
So that's not the Microsoft one. That's actually it's called.
That's Vaadin Copilot.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe a confusing name because it's mostly like a drag and drop UI editor, but because you can also chat with that and ask it to make UIs for you, we call it Vaadin Copilot.
Wait,
but
is that the thing that also does the Figma?
yeah. You
Okay,
can
tell us about that. That is so cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's so maybe as a kind of background. So we really think that UI should be written in code. So then you have always this kind of a full control over it.
Right.
So we kind of in your live Vaadin application, you can invoke this Vaadin Copilot, and you can change the UI, basically drag and dropping, editing how it looks like, and so forth. It edits your code. For that, it needs a plugin for your IDE. We support IntelliJ and we support VS Code for that. So one thing that we added.
Well, it doesn't. It can edit the code all right. The only thing it actually needs the IDE plugin for is to tell the IDE to recompile the Java file after it has been edited.
And support the undo stack as well.
Yeah, undo stack is the other thing, but still kind of it's very little that is needed from the IDE plugin.
Nice.
Yeah, that's true. But back to your question. So what we added there that is like magic is that if you are using Figma for designing your UIs,
Who isn't, by the way? That's
everybody's
that is the way you start your design for an app today. So
if you go to your Figma design and you select that, you copy, you can go to Vaadin Copilot. So basically in your live application and paste. And it actually codes the UI. If it happens to be in Vaadin Flow, it codes it in Java. So it actually codes in Java the Figma UI live. Or if you happen to be using Vaadin Hilla, it codes that in React. So and it kind of so it's really, really cool thing that happens in there.
Oh my God, this is like you know how much money Adobe lost trying to make round trippable Flash and Flex a thing, right? And they wanted it so that the designers could come at it from the Photoshop file or the Illustrator file. This is before Adobe XD and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But even
and
kind
then
of
get code out of that. And
yeah, but even
you
like
solved it.
they had like kind of the philosophy of traditional UI editors. They had this kind of model that they and then you needed to kind of glue the code to the model. What we are doing differently is that we actually don't have any models.
Right.
Your code.
Oh, you
is
mean
the
there's no XML DOM tree?
So we
okay.
don't kind of say that, hey, this is this dynamic Figma file and you can start editing, kind of changing that. No, we take it and actually we transform that to your code, and you can refactor in IntelliJ as you wish, and it starts kind of keep working. So it's really
that's what I'm saying. That's amazing. By the way, is it round trip? If I make a change to Figma?
No, unfortunately not. Though.
Not
No,
yet.
so you cannot basically code in Java and see the results in Figma. That part is not there.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think about that. No, I meant the other way around. Like if I update Figma, can I integrate that again? Or?
No,
No,
it's
then-
like a
then
new
you override.
custom base.
Okay. So
We should kind of solve that part.
well,
eventually.
what you just did is already half the battle. I've got Figma. Please make it code. That's 80% of the job. You know.
Yep.
Most people.
So kind of limitation in there because in Figma you can draw a circle. So so limitation is that you get the best result if you are using Vaadin's Figma design system. So basically all the components in Vaadin, we have a corresponding components in Figma, so you can drag and drop those and build your UI out of these. So if you're using them, it actually knows that, this is a date picker. I'll be using Vaadin's date picker APIs, and if you use kind of Vaadin date picker in there or grid or whatnot.
Yeah. And so Vaadin, you have a bunch of skins, right? But it's a very good design language for apps as well. So it makes sense that I wouldn't, even if I wasn't targeting Vaadin, which I would be, but even if I wasn't, I would still want to use that design language for Figma.
Yeah.
It just looks really good. I would like my apps to look that good.
I guess back in the days, it was one of the things that we got a lot of server-side Java developer audience, and they felt that they can build decent-looking Vaadin app, decent-looking web apps because it kind of looks decent out of the box. So.
It looks great out of the box. That's what I'm saying. I wish the browser. I mean, the browser by default pages look terrible, right? It's still sans serif Times New Roman.
Yeah, kind of
padding
default
and all that.
fonts and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, don't mean to gush out on design here, but I'm just that part is so cool. Okay. What other IDEs work fine? Yes, for teams looking to transition from traditional JavaScript frameworks to Vaadin, what changes should they be aware of? Where are there resources or tools provided by Vaadin to ease this migration? Go on.
Well, you just need to learn Java.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
So just drop the script.
I mean, if you are using React today and if you feel that the full stack approach would be more productive for you, then you can almost see like Vaadin as a full stack framework for React. Let's reformulate that. It's like a full stack Java framework for React.
Right.
That's kind of one way of looking at it.
Yeah, you can surround your React app with.
You can keep using React, but now there is like direct gateway to Spring from there. So
Nice. Okay. Might be nice to tackle Hilla versus Flow.
we might have answered that already, but
Yeah, I think we just Flow is Java first web apps, and Hilla is TypeScript and React first web apps. But there's a integration between the two.
And it's the same kind of applications, the same use the same components.
yeah, they can basically be in the same application and mix and match as you wish.
I don't know where to get enough Vaadin resources. Here, battling with React for the front end. Where do I start? I love Java. Me too. So I think we kind of covered that.
Vaadin.com.
Vaadin.com. Yep. And our friend Lawrence, great to see him. This got to spend 2 days with him. He's one of your star advocates, right? He's amazing. Just super happy to see him.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah. Hi. Good to see you. Thanks. Okay.
All right.
We got through some of the questions. I think we did more good than harm. So I feel like that's enough.
I think we have earned a drink.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks.